'Twas the night before Christmas when all through the land Fox News warned its viewers of a dastardly plan. The liberals were launching their war on the season to get rid of Christmas and commit acts of treason, removing decorations out of their sight, and telling you that Santa and Jesus ain't white. Environmentalists who'll come right after your soul. They hate all things Christmas, especially the coal. They'll sneak in your house all dressed in their flannel, and instead give the bad kids some new solar panels. They'll take up all decorations that please us. They'll even go after tiny baby Jesus. Now all these Fox lies cause such a frustration. Who would save us all from this misinformation? When live from the net there came lots of chatter. Could it be old St. Nick, or perhaps someone fatter? Broadcasting from New Orleans down in Louisiana, it was none other than Liberal Dan, coming to save the holiday season, busting through their lies with facts, logic, and reason. But I cannot do it myself, he exclaimed, so he called other groups, each one by name. On Christians, on Muslims, on Wiccans, on Jews, on Hindus and Buddhists, and atheists too. Let us all spread the word and tell them indeed that there's no war on Christmas, just one on greed. So instead of joining this manufactured fight, listen to Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left, that's right.
From New Orleans on this Christmas episode of Liberal Dan Radio. Of course, there's not really anything jolly or holly being talked about tonight. There's some pretty rough topics we plan on talking about today. Unfortunately, there will be no calling in to the show again because Blog Talk Radio again is crapping the bed again. So if you want to join the conversation, just join us in the chat room. LiberalDanRadio.com brings you to the YouTube page. Come to the live, and just if you're not in the chat, just join us in the chat, and there you go. I can't tell you what to do on Blog Talk Radio because you can't hear me on Blog Talk Radio because I can't connect to Blog Talk Radio. Man, if I were spending money over there, I'd be really pissed, but I'm not. So it is what it is. Oh, and I can't even play that because, I don't have my soundboard set up, and, well, last time it was giving me it fits. So I'll just have to do the Trump imitation tonight. But thank everybody so far for coming in, smashing that like button, subscribing to the channel, and joining us on this Christmas night. I hope you all had, if you celebrate the holiday, I hope you got to spend it with your families, chosen or otherwise, and I hope you got to enjoy it with loved ones. I hope you got to enjoy some good Christmas movies like Die Hard, like I did last night. One of my Christmas traditions. I've never understood why I could never find some Weir's Die Hard anywhere on television on Christmas or Christmas Eve, despite it being a Christmas movie. And, so I went ahead and paid for the digital version on Amazon. So whenever I feel like watching Die Hard, I can, and I always do so on Christmas Eve. And then as soon as Hans Gruber, spoiler alert, gets thrown off the top of, or let go off the top of Nakatomi Plaza, I always give some sort of holiday wish, like God bless us everyone, or Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night, because then you've hit Christmas because Hans Gruber has fallen off the tower. And what I should do, and haven't done this yet, but I should figure out exactly what time it is in the movie where it happens, so that he can fall off the tower right at the stroke of midnight, so that could be when that happens. Anyway, so I also did the traditional Jewish tradition of eating Chinese food on Christmas Day. The weird thing is my closest Chinese restaurant does not open on Christmas Day, and many don't, and many restaurants here in the area don't even open on Mondays and the place that I go to doesn't even open on Sundays. So I had to order from a different place yesterday, and I got it sent by Grubhub or whatever. So I had some Chinese food yesterday, and then had some Chinese leftovers, some fried rice today to continue on with my other tradition of eating Chinese food on Christmas. So yes, there you go. A bunch of stuff I want to talk about tonight. What's interesting is what always happens is I have several topics that I want to talk about, and we will be talking about those. But then there's always another topic that comes up that I feel the need to either talk about or rant about, and that'll happen a little later. We'll get to that rant a little later because there's Jolie what? Wait, if I had a record scratch, I'd have to play the record scratch sound right now. You've never seen Die Hard? Why do you hate America so much? Do you hate this country? Do you hate America? Do you hate Christmas? I say this as a Jew. You need to see Die Hard. Oh my God, it's a great movie. It's so good, and it holds up. It absolutely holds up. It's a great movie. It's got some of the one of the best Christmas songs in it, "Christmas in Hollis" by Run DMC, and it's so good. It's so good. You have to. It's almost as bad. It's even worse, I think, than Nimbus Yosh not having seen Tropic Thunder yet. Jeff Curry, it dawned on me I've never seen Raiders of the Lost Ark. Like, before I spoil Raiders of the Lost Ark for you, do you mind if I tell you something about Raiders of the Lost Ark? That it doesn't actually say anything about the plot of the movie, but it's an interesting tidbit about Raiders of the Lost Ark that you could watch the entirety of the movie. I'm just going to say it because it actually doesn't give away any of the plot, except for the fact that if Indiana Jones did not take part in any of the action or any of it, if Indiana Jones wasn't in the movie would end exactly the same way. The only thing that happens in Raiders of the Lost Ark that has anything of consequence is that it opens up the door for something in the fourth movie. That's all it does. Because literally, Indiana Jones does not do anything in the movie to help push the plot along. Because if he wasn't there, the same things would have happened. So, Jeff Curry, a whole movie about a guy looking for something. Welcome to my world. Yeah, but here's the thing. He's looking for something, and it would have been found anyway without him being there or not. So, like, it's an interesting... I mean, it's still a good movie. I mean, it's still enjoyable to watch. I mean, it's always fun to watch, anybody beat up on Nazis. I mean, that's always a good time, right? But it's also just silly about the fact that there's nothing that Indiana Jones does that helps save the day at any point in time. Say Marianne would have died if Indy wasn't there. I'll have to think about that one. I need to consider that, because maybe you have a point. But in the whole preventing the Nazis from getting their hands on the Ark of the Covenant arc as in storyline arc, not as Ark of the Covenant. He plays no part in that. Perhaps he would have saved her life, I guess, in the bar, I suppose, from the first Nazi, I guess. Yeah, Marion. I'm sorry. Yes, Marion. I thought it was spelled weird, and then I was going by what you've said, what you typed. I was like, wait, doesn't seem right, but I don't know. I got things rattling around in my head. Somebody who is a friend of mine on Facebook spouting things that just not sitting well with me, and not happy while reading them, and it's very well possible that it at the end of the day, if depending on how he yeah, I don't believe that's not true. This person over here responding it. Whatever. We'll deal with my friends the people I know online in a second. But I'm just getting tired of it's whole about the whole Israeli Hamas Gaza thing, and like we'll get to it later, but criticizing Israel is not anti-Semitic. But if you're going to look at the plight of the Palestinian people and only blame Israel and have blinders on, that's anti-Semitic in my mind. And we'll go into that a little later. Hey, Kimchi, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. So other big news, I guess, in the world of Liberal Dan Radio is that on Friday, supposedly, I hit the threshold of hitting 3,000 hours of show watched in the last 365 days. I was sitting at Cider. I looked at the app. It said apply now. I hit apply now. I was like, yes, I made it. And then all of a sudden, the next day, I showed up as being 10 hours shy again. And now I'm like 9 hours shy. I'm like, what is going on? So I actually tweeted at YouTube and I was like, please explain this to me, because I don't understand why I was able to click the button on Friday and now you're telling me I'm shy again. And they're like, well, we're going to look into it. So shockingly enough, they're going to have somebody look into it. So who knows? Maybe I'll get an answer sooner rather than later on the whole thing. And maybe we'll be able to get there. Maybe this show is going to be the one that actually kicks us over, because at the moment I'm still 9 hours shy. I have 2,991 public watch hours. Now, according to one of the initial comments that I saw on the YouTube people, it was the analytics page shows hours watched that include unlisted and private videos. I don't have any of those. All of my videos are listed in public. So I don't know why that would be a difference, but it's a slight possibility that maybe shorts are the reason. Maybe the difference in the two pages is shorts views. Maybe shorts views don't count towards the public watch hours that would give me the watch hours to get me there, whereas the analytics shows me the shorts views on top of everything else. So maybe that's the difference. But I've just been so close for the last week and a half. It's close. But I appreciate, again, y'all are awesome for helping out. Y'all are awesome for coming in, even on today. Y'all are awesome for watching videos in your spare time and putting the videos. I appreciate everything that y'all do when it comes like that. Yeah, YouTube is doing the TikTok screw over creators plan, perhaps. Maybe, I don't know. I've not even gotten anywhere close on TikTok to be able to say whether or not I can get screwed over as a creator over there on TikTok, because I'm not even close. I'm like, you need 10,000 followers on TikTok, and I think I have like maybe 3,000 over there, which is, great comparatively to here, but not comparatively to, like if I took my TikTok numbers and applied them to YouTube, I'd be monetized already. But apparently, like, it's easier to get subscribers on TikTok or followers on TikTok, and that's why TikTok requires more in order for you to get monetized over there. So anyway, it is what it is. So anywho, one of the first things I want to talk about is the main topic of the show. Will Texas apply laws equally? Why am I bringing that up? What causes me to want to discuss Texas laws, Texas property laws, etc., Texas stand your ground and castle doctrine laws? Well, let's Texas Penal Code, Chapter 9, Subchapter D is the protection of property clause, whereas Subchapter C is the protection of people. Let's see. So Section 9.41, protections of one's own property. A person in lawful possession of land or tangible movable property is justified in using force against another when and to the degree the actor reasonably believes the force is immediately necessary to prevent or terminate others' trespass on land or unlawful interference with property. Now, this is using force. This isn't using deadly force. A person unlawfully disposed of land, tangible, movable property other is justified in using force. Another one, to the degree the actor reasonably believes the force is immediately necessary to re-enter the land to recover the property if the actor uses the force immediately or in fresh pursuit after the disposition, and the actor reasonably believes the other had no claim of right when he dispossessed the actor, or the other accomplished the dispossession by using force, threat, or fraud against the actor. So basically, you can use force if the other person doesn't believe they have the right to property. So I guess maybe if you're married to somebody and one person believes that they had the right to the property and you're fighting over who has the right to the property, then there wouldn't be an argument to use force, but force could be used. Now, Section 9.42, deadly force to protect property. A person is justified in using deadly force against another to protect land or tangible movable property if, one, it would be justified in using force against the other in the previous one, and when and to the degree he reasonably believes the deadly force is immediately necessary, A, to prevent the other's imminent commission of arson, burglary, robbery, aggravated robbery, theft during the nighttime, or criminal mischief during the nighttime, or B, to prevent the other who is fleeing immediately after committing the burglary, robbery, aggravated burglary, theft during the nighttime from escaping with the property, and he reasonably believes that the land or property cannot be protected or recovered by any other means, or the use of force other than deadly force to protect or recover the land or property would expose the actor to a substantial risk of death or serious bodily injury. Basically allowing you to use force. You can use deadly force to protect property, i.e. your castle doctrine, to prevent, burglary, robbery, aggravated robbery, theft, etc. A lot of it is during the nighttime from escaping. So you can't prevent somebody from escaping during the day, but at night, I don't know what the difference is there. I don't know why they make a difference between the daytime and the nighttime. But protection of a third person's property, and this is important for a reason in a second. A person is justified in using force or deadly force against another to protect land or tangible movable property of a third person if under the circumstances he reasonably believes them to be. The actor would be justified under Section 9.41 and 9.42 in using force or deadly force to protect his own land or property, and the actor reasonably believes the unlawful interference constitutes attempted or consummated theft of criminal mischief, or the actor reasonably believes that the third person has requested his property, has a legal duty to protect the property of the third person whose land or property he uses force or deadly force to protect, is the actor's spouse, parent, child, resides with the actor, is under the actor's care. So the actor reasonably believes the unlawful interference constitutes attempted or consummated theft or criminal mischief to the tangible movable property. Anyway. So, why am I bringing this up? So let's talk about a previous case right now. Let us listen to Joe Horn. If you were a New Orleans Saints fan, I am not talking about that Joe Horn. I am talking about a Joe Horn, an individual from Texas, who called 911 about his neighbor being burgled. So we will just restart this video now and watch.
Passing 911, what is your emergency?
Burglars breaking into a house next door.
What's the address there, sir?
7418. Not my address, but next door, okay?
Yes, sir.
I've got a shotgun. Do you want me to stop them?
Nope, don't do that. Ain't no property worth shooting somebody over, okay?
Well, they're breaking in right now.
There you go. 911 dispatch telling the individual there's no property worth shooting anybody over. Don't involve yourself. You've called 911. Don't interfere. Don't use your shotgun.
Now, they're in their house.
Mm-hmm.
I'm watching them. Hurry up, man. Catch these guys, will you? Because I ain't going to let them go. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not going to let them go. I'm not going to let them get away with this.
Stay on the phone with me till we get someone right over there, okay? Don't hang up.
I'm not hanging up, but I'm telling you right now, I don't like this kind of stuff, man. This is ridiculous.
Yes, sir, it is.
broad daylight.
You see the front of the house.
Again, here's the important thing. Remember what I read earlier. We're gonna say, when can you use deadly force to protect property? If it justifies to use force against somebody under 9.41, and the force is immediately necessary to prevent the other's commission of arson, burglary, robbery, attempted robbery, theft during the nighttime, or criminal mischief during the nighttime. So as he's not preventing the burglary, he's you know, it's not theft during the nighttime. It's at the daytime, or to prevent the other who is fleeing immediately after the committing the burglary, robbery, or theft during the nighttime from escaping with the property. Okay, so here we go.
I can't see the front. I go out the front, but if I go out the front, I bring my shotgun with me. I swear to God, I am not going to let him get away with it. I can't take a chance on getting killed over this. Okay?
No.
I'm going to shoot. I'm going to shoot.
I can't take a chance of getting killed about this, but instead of just staying in my house and waiting for the police to arrive, I'm going to go take a risk to myself getting killed over this by confronting the people who are robbing my neighbor.
Stay inside the house and don't go out there, okay? Mr. Horn? Mr. Horn?
God damn it, they just stole something. I'm going out the window. I'm sorry. I ain't
Don't
going to let them get away with this. They stole something. They got a bag of
the
something.
house.
They're still getting away.
So they're getting away with the property. They were getting away with the property, but this is not during the nighttime. He said it's broad daylight. He can, under the Texas laws of when you could use deadly force to protect property, you could use deadly force to prevent others who are fleeing immediately after committing a burglary, robbery, attempted aggravated robbery, or theft during the nighttime from escaping with the property. But it's not during the nighttime. It's during the daytime. So you can't use deadly force during the daytime under Texas law. But this is during the daytime.
That's all right. Property's not worth killing someone over.
I can't. I'm going outside. I'll find out.
I don't want you going outside, Mr. Horn.
Well, here it goes, buddy. You hear the shotgun clicking, and I'm going.
Passing 911. What is your emergency?
So that call didn't have the remainder of the call. That didn't have the remainder of what went on with the call. However, hold on. I had that link open. Hold on. Joe Horn, Texas. But actually, let's go to this other page. So this is way back in 2008. The article from ABC News. The Texas man who shot and killed two men he believed to be burglarizing his neighbor home won't be going to trial. In the Lone Star State, where the six-gun tamed frontier shooting the bad guys is a time-honored tradition. The castle law gives Texans unprecedented legal authority to use deadly force in their homes, vehicles, and workplaces. They no longer have an obligation to retreat if possible before they shoot. But here's the thing. It's in the daytime, and they were escaping with the property during the daytime, and you can't do it in the daytime. You can only do it at night, according to the words of the law. The use of deadly force is carefully limited to Texas law to certain circumstances. In this case, however, the grand jury that was convened, because I usually have a problem, generally speaking, with district attorneys and attorneys general who refuse to, have the guts or the gumption to just bring cases by themselves and want to use a grand jury. But apparently under Texas, if you want to bring a case, if you're going to bring a case of like manslaughter or murder against people, they all have to be brought before a grand jury. So I can't complain about this here. In this case, however, the grand jury concluded that Mr. Horn's use of deadly force did not rise to a criminal defense. They did not bring a bill against him. Despite the fact that even though the 911 operator specifically said, don't go out there, no property is worth shooting anybody over, do not go out there, do not do it. The 911 operator says, I don't want you going out there, and then he cites the fact that the laws have changed in Texas because they had recently changed. But the 62-year-old white dude basically got away with shooting someone. According to the police report, because a plainclothes officer had gotten there first, I think, before the shooting took place. And according to the police report, Joe Horn shot the individuals in the backs, i.e. they were fleeing. They posed no direct threat to him. They posed no direct threat to anybody. They were just stealing the property, and that property could have been recovered, except for the fact that, you know, I guess it was recovered, but in doing so, he murdered 2 people. He murdered 2 people. But he got away with murder. Because the law allows for, in Texas, you to shoot people, but I don't even think the law allows for, I don't even think the law is allowed for this particular case, but the grand jury was like, nope, we're going to allow Joe Horn to come in, and we're going to allow him to do what he wanted to do and murder 2 people legally, because, you know, I guess we're fine with what took place. There's quotes from somebody called Nancy Brainerd. Nancy Brainerd was one of the 12 grand jury members that decided the fate of Joe Horn. Joe Horn shot 2 men suspected of burglarizing the neighbor's home. Horn is white. The 2 suspects were I don't know if they were black or if they were just darker skinned Latino individuals. Horn did not stand trial for the shooting after a grand jury declined to indict him. Bernard does not want to divulge how she voted, but she said that the decision to not indict was far from unanimous, and that the voting process was by a show of hands. There was those of us who felt this gentleman's life was not in danger, which is supposedly when you are supposed to stand your ground. Local 2 Legal Line Osborne Rice, who was also served on a grand jury, points out that while overwhelming majority of cases presented to the grand juries result in indictments, the glaring exception is for police who have shot suspects in line of duty. Make no mistake that being a peace officer and a peace officer involved shooting is the ultimate home court advantage in a jury proceeding. Of course, this was not a peace officer. This was an individual who was just trying to play cop in the part of what was going on. So why am I bringing up this 2008 case, 15 years ago, a 15 years ago case? Well, December 21st, 2023, Fort Worth woman who fatally shot teen breaking into her home says, "I was protecting my kids." A Fort Worth woman who shot and killed somebody trying to break into her rental home where she lived with her 4 daughters is talking about what happens with Fox 4's Sean Rabb. A 14-year-old boy was killed. Police have not filed any charges, sending the case to a grand jury. Again, another case sent to a grand jury. Aaliyah Wallace said she got a gun to protect her family after a handful of break-ins started just weeks prior. The other burglaries happened when no one was home, but twice on December 14th, someone tried to get in. I was cleaning my living room, sweeping my floor. I heard my window started going back up. So I went. I stood in my hallway. All I could see him standing in the window, lifting up. I just shot. This is the Castle Doctrine. This is actually the Castle Doctrine. The person was in the process of breaking into her house. This doesn't have to be daytime, nighttime. This is a case where this individual is under Texas law allowed to shoot and fire and use deadly force to protect her life and the lives of her children. And I'm not going to say I disagree with Castle Doctrines. You know, if somebody's breaking into your house, you can't stop and discern whether or not the person's intent is good or not. You're most likely going to assume that the person's intent is bad. And what are you going to think? I'm not going to sit here and blame anybody for shooting a person who's trying to break into their house. But apparently the law in Texas is going to try and do that. Now, I do not believe that there is any sort of requirement to bring this before a grand jury. They could have just said, look, this is stand your ground Castle Doctrine. There's no reason to bring this before a grand jury. Done. This is cut and dry under Texas law, clear. But what's the difference between Joe Horn and Aaliyah Wallace? Joe Horn's an old white man. Aaliyah Wallace is a young black woman. And as we've learned in the past, stand your ground laws are only for white people. They are not for black people. Stand your ground laws only apply, in reality, to white people. When they try and apply to black people, the law goes, nope, we don't think black people should get to have the same rights as white people. Shocking, I know, that someplace in the South would deny equal rights and protection under the law to black people that they would give to white people. Dun, dun, dun. The gunshots killed 14-year-old Devin Baker, who was at the bedroom window of Wallace's 8-year-old daughter. She says, it's bothering me that he was a kid. The incident happened not long after police left Wallace's home after responding to her 911 call about somebody trying to break into her duplex. I called them at 1:22 a.m. She talked for like 20 minutes. They did report, took pictures, and then they left. Wallace said she had 4 attempted burglaries, and this is at 1:22 a.m. So this is at night. So at night, so again, this is at night where if he would have broken in something and left at that point, fleeing under Texas law, you're allowed to kill. Stupidly, I don't agree with that. I don't think you should be able to shoot anybody in the back. Unless shooting somebody in the back, unless the shot at somebody in the back is somebody charging to go kill somebody in front of them. So like if I'm behind somebody and they're charging somebody else to go unalive them, and all of a sudden they're like, and the only shot I have is them in the back. Yeah, fine, should have been in the back. But if they're fleeing, they're not a threat. Especially if they're fleeing with just property. But this is not a case of that. This is a case of they're breaking into the house. And not only is she facing incarceration over this deal, because now she has to deal with a grand jury. I'm sure she probably is not going to have potentially the best of legal representation, because you never know. She is in public housing. So unless somebody comes along like Ben Crump to come defend her, I hope they do. Hope Ben Crump gets a legal team involved to help protect this person, because this person needs protecting. Apparently the apartments that she lives in called and told her that she was not supposed to have a gun at all. Even though I kept calling them, telling them someone's breaking in, they told me I could not have a gun and I have 30 days to vacate. Feel like I'm back at square one. I was there 6 years. Now I don't know what to do. The case is going to a grand jury. Wallace says she wants people to know she was just protecting her family. I have 4 daughters. It's just me and my 4 daughters that just stay there. I just was protecting my daughters. I'm devastated he was 14. I hate that. I literally do. I'm so sorry. But at that point, I had to think about my babies. I didn't know he was 14 when he was on the other side of that window. All I knew was somebody could come in and hurt me or my kids. That's it. Wallace lived in subsidized housing, but we could find no law that says residents in government subsidized housing cannot have a gun. We saw no signs posted on the property saying that either. Wallace is concerned an eviction will prevent her from finding other housing. The local apartment manager said to call corporate. Corporate office said to call the on-site management, so they're getting the back and forth between corporate and on-site management. So this woman is getting the runaround and is probably not going to get a fair shake. So that's why we're going to keep an eye on this as much as we can. We're gonna make sure that we keep tabs on Aaliyah Wallace to see whether or not, what the grand jury does. Is the Texas grand jury going to say, hey, no harm, no foul, like they did for Joe Horn? Or are they going to apply 2 sets of justice, one for old white dudes and one for young black women? If I had to prognosticate and guess, I would probably say that my assumption would be the latter, that they're going to have 2 sets of systems. One for the old white dudes, and one for the black people. Tale as old as time, as I've been constantly saying a lot these days. Disney fan, Stitch Christmas shirt, etc. Eazy-E never can fire a bond. She will get pardoned of any charges, since this could end up being a federal case. I think the grand jury will do the right thing. I don't know if it will be a federal case. As of right now, it's a Texas case, and Biden has no say in that. Abbott would have to pardon, but in order for a pardon to happen, you have to admit that a crime was taking place. That's the thing. So So basically, I don't know if she would preemptively want I don't know how that would work. And like in Georgia, I know you can't just pardon, it's a pardon board. I don't know how pardons work in Texas specifically. Texas is probably just like the governor can pardon whoever the hell he wants. It doesn't matter. But Biden doesn't necessarily have a say in this. Now, Biden, if I don't believe that the Justice Department is going to try and seek federal actions after Miss Wallace. I don't think that's going to be the case. But hopefully, I mean, this shouldn't even be going to a grand jury. That's my main point. This shouldn't even be going to a grand jury. This should be cut and dry. This should be somebody was breaking into her house. She shot them under Texas law that's legal. Done. Why is this even proceeding to a grand jury? We all know why. Because Aaliyah Wallace is a black woman. And black people are not allowed to stand your ground. Case in point, Marissa Alexander, different state, same idea. In Florida, Marissa Alexander fired a warning shot. She didn't even shoot her abuser. She fired a warning shot at her abuser and got sent to prison. She tried to claim stand your ground because she was trying to, defend herself against an abuser, and the state was like, nope, you can't fire warning shots. That's not allowed, so therefore we're going to send you to prison. Why? Because stand your ground is only applicable to white dudes and not to black people. Marissa Alexander had to basically later on accept a plea deal that capped her sentence to 3 years that she had already served, and she pled guilty to 3 counts of aggravated assault for firing a shot in the direction of her husband. She agreed to serve 2 years of house arrest, wearing an ankle monitor. She will be allowed to work, attend classes, take her children to school, make medical appointments. But her case apparently inspired a new state law that allowed warning shots in some circumstances. But how could a warning shot not be allowed if in a stand your ground case, but yet you could shoot someone dead? George Zimmerman could shoot Trayvon Martin dead. No problem. Now, people usually will say that George Zimmerman was a stand your ground case. It wasn't. He never invoked stand your ground specifically, but it was a self-defense case. But again, George Zimmerman could murder somebody and get away with it. And they allowed him to claim that he was operating in self-defense, at which point it was the responsibility of the state to prove that it wasn't self-defense, which is one of my problems with how they've dealt with affirmative defenses in this country, because typically when one raises an affirmative defense, you're basically saying, yes, I did the action that was usually illegal, this is why it should not be considered illegal, and here's my proof as to why. That's how affirmative defenses used to work in this country. But now, because we have a slew of ALEC-based bills that are being pushed through state legislatures, they are changing how affirmative defenses work, and they're basically saying if somebody raises an affirmative defense of self-defense or stand your ground or whatever, they're typically then making the state prove that it's not self-defense, which asking somebody to prove a negative is a logical fallacy. But they don't care, because these laws exist specifically because they want to make it easier for people, specifically white people, to get away with shooting other people. Because as we've seen with Marissa Alexander, as we are now seeing with this particular case in Fort Worth, trying to find the tab, Aaliyah Wallace, as we've seen with those cases, they're being questioned as to whether or not these laws apply to them. It never applied to Marissa Alexander. We'll see if it applies to Aaliyah Wallace. One would hope that the grand jury does the right thing, but it's Texas, so who the hell knows? Who the hell knows what will happen, because it's frickin' Texas. And yes, easy. George Zimmerman is absolutely a murderer as far as I'm concerned as well. He got away with it. I did a whole show as to how I would have argued how I would have closed if I was the defense, because I think the defense, I think a lot of times these prosecutors are prosecuting to save face, but not to actually get a conviction. Because I don't think the prosecutors in the George Zimmerman case actually wanted a conviction. I don't think they cared. I think they were fine with what George Zimmerman did. They just had to save face and had to put them on trial just to make them look good, but then they didn't do a good enough job on the trial. They probably just blew the trial to make it so that he got off, because they probably should have been able to get a conviction if they really wanted one. Same thing with Kyle Rittenhouse. Kyle Rittenhouse, if you had a different attorney other than Binger was terrible. I would sit here and watch the case, watch the footage. I've done response videos to the footage and to other people responding to the footage. Binger was horrible. It's the one thing I agree with a lot of the conservatives who support Kyle Rittenhouse. Binger is a terrible prosecutor. Absolutely terrible. Now, was he legitimately terrible, just a bad prosecutor in that he's inept? Or was he purposely trying to not win the case because maybe at the end of the day, he didn't feel that Kyle Rittenhouse should be penalized for his actions, but he had to do something to save face in the eyes of the public who were demanding to see Kyle Rittenhouse be skewered. And as long as he did his thing, as long as the state did their thing, then there's plausible deniability there. Meanwhile, Rittenhouse gets away with murdering 3 people. You see, I think Rittenhouse was acting in self-defense at the time. I don't think he was acting in self-defense in the first shot. In the first shot specifically. Or in the first several shots specifically. Because even in Rittenhouse's own testimony, he testified on the stand that he knew that Rosenbaum didn't have a gun. He knew that, because a lot of the people who were trying to be Kyle Rittenhouse apologists were saying that there was no way that Rittenhouse could have known whether or not the shots that he heard fired were from the other person whose name I forget off the top of my head, and from Rosenbaum. But Rittenhouse then on the stand goes, "Oh, I knew he wasn't armed." And I'm like, what? You knew he wasn't armed, yet you felt the use of deadly force was okay. And why did you keep firing after the first shot? After the first shot, he was going down. You didn't need to keep firing and firing and firing and firing until he was dead. You just fired one shot. That one shot would have been enough to take him out of the equation at least. But no, he kept firing until he was dead. He then fired willy-nilly into the air at Jump Kick Guy, who I don't know if we even ever find out who Jump Kick Guy was. He fired at the skateboard guy, and then there's maybe the shooting of what is it, Gage Grosskreutz or whatever. Maybe the shooting of Gage Grosskreutz might have been seen as legitimate simply because of the fact that Gage also had a gun on him, so maybe Rittenhouse at that point felt that he was defending himself. But then again, Gage Grosskreutz probably felt that he was defending other people under the law. One of the things that people don't understand is that Rittenhouse had no right to be there in the first place. He didn't have the right to use any sort of force to protect anybody's property whatsoever. I have plenty of videos on that if you want to go see that. I'm not going to rehash this thing. Yeah, easy. Rosenbaum did not have a gun. A lot of people will bring up the fact that he was a convicted sex offender. Yeah, okay, I'm not crying that he's dead. I'm not upset that a convicted sex offender is dead. I'm not worried about that. But again, it's irrelevant to the case because there's no way that Rittenhouse knew that either. But yeah, Rittenhouse was on the stand. I mean, when I heard that, I was like, there's no way that Binger can screw this up. Now that he admitted to knowing that he was unarmed. But he admitted to knowing he was unarmed. And he got away with it anyway. It's freaking pathetic. Our legal system sucks. Rosenbaum was a criminal, though, not a serial child rapist like they claimed either. I mean, I don't know. Yes, he was a criminal, but again, there's no way for Rittenhouse, regardless of what he did, there's no way for Rittenhouse to have known what he did, other than the fact that he was loud and abrasive and shouted the N-word a bunch of times, I believe. So, Let's see. Wait, what's a little brown and Jewy sounding? What did I miss in the chat? So let's scroll back to see what I did miss and do respond some stuff. Yeah, cat attack on camera. Yeah, Rose loves to come up here and sit on my shoulders for a few minutes and then leave. I don't know why. Let's see. Not chancing my life for neighbor's junk. Exactly. Big Hook, is this cat a testicle stomper? I'm not going to say that Rose is a testicle stomper. However, Rose does have some hard-ass paws. Like, I don't understand how she is as heavy on her paws as she is. Like, she walks on you and it's like, oh, like, she's like adds like 20 pounds every time she steps. Whereas her sister, Gloria, who hates me, who, if she does walk on it, it doesn't feel at all as heavy, especially when she walks on Cassie, who, you know, knows how it feels like, because, you know, well, Cassie is loved by the cats. Let's see. Kimchi, we no longer have the Wild Wild West, we have the fascist South. Exactly. Big Hut, remember the black kid who knocked on the wrong door and the crazy old guy shot the kid through the door? Yep. Easy, better to be judged by 12 than carried by 6 in the situation. I'm assuming you're talking about the Aaliyah Wallace case. And yeah, I agree with you in that case. I mean, I am not blaming Aaliyah Wallace whatsoever for what she did. I support what she did. Like I am not vehemently anti-gun as some other people who are progressive leftists are. I mean, in fact, there are people on the leftists who are rabidly pro-gun, who are revolutionary and want to use their guns to fight the revolution or whatever, which I think is just as absurd as the right-wingers who want to use their guns in the revolution, but that's a whole other point. But I believe law-abiding citizens should be able to have guns, and they should be able to use them legally, and I think that this should be considered a legal use of using one's gun. There was a guy, Merritt Landry, I think his name was, who shot, unfortunately, another kid in New Orleans who was breaking into his home, and the kid died. I don't know if it's a 14-year-old kid, but I think it was a 17-year-old kid. And it sucks that a kid had to die, but he was legally justified in doing what he did. And I was like, look, you know, people are going to complain and think that it was racist or whatever, and people were making the claims that this guy was racist. But no, how did he know? It's dark. All he knew was somebody was breaking into his house, and he had a gun, and he shot him. I'm not going to blame anybody for shooting somebody who's breaking into their house. Period. But apparently Texas law feels that, you know, even though this should be considered cut and dry, this should be an absolute case where Texas castle doctrine type laws, stand your ground type laws absolutely come into play. They're still sending it to a grand jury because they're stupid and racist. Let's see. 18 watching with 16 likes. 2 people are on the naughty list. Well, now we're at 17 and 20, so I guess the threats of the naughty list were successful, Kimchi, so thank you. Same thing with the Ohio toilet desecration of a fetus. Is a black woman racial justice of punishing black people in fines for the white colors? And that's also as well. I considered bringing up that in this discussion, but I was like, maybe it's a little bit on the periphery, but it's a point. It's a decent point to make, and it's one that I considered making. But like, there's another case. A 27-year-old woman who called 911 for help was fatally shot by an LA deputy. Los Angeles, Nayani Finlayson, a 27-year-old black woman, was fatally shot by a Los Angeles County Sheriff's deputy responding to a domestic violence call, authorities said. Same deputy killed another person in a similar incident 3 years ago. Yay. On December 4th, Finlayson called 911 to report that her boyfriend would not leave her alone, and then screaming of sounds of a struggle could be heard. Finlayson and her 9-year-old daughter were being attacked by the mother's former boyfriend and needed help. When deputies arrived at her apartment in Lancaster, the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department said Finlayson opened the door and was threatening her boyfriend with a large kitchen knife. She told deputies her boyfriend had pushed her daughter. The boyfriend was not named by officials. Finlayson grabbed her boyfriend while holding the knife in an apparent attempt to stab him. The deputy-involved shooting occurred. Finlayson was struck by the gunfire, fell to the floor, and dropped the knife. Finlayson's family disputes the Sheriff's Department account of what happened. The family's lawyer disputed the account and planned to file a lawsuit against the Sheriff's Department alleging wrongful death. According to the family's lawyer, Finlayson was the victim of domestic violence, was not threatening anybody when the deputy shot her in the back from behind a glass door. Deputies performed first aid on Finlayson until the paramedics arrived. She was then transported to a local hospital where she was pronounced dead. She died of multiple gunshot wounds, according to the county medical examiner. So not just one, but multiple gunshot wounds. So why do you have to, were multiple required for somebody holding a knife? Rather than coming to her aid, they wound up shooting and killing her. Gage said in a press conference the family is seeking $30 million in damages and legal fees. As of Thursday night, the Sheriff's Department said it did not receive the claim. District Attorney's Office will review the incident to determine whether criminal charges will be filed and whether the shooting was legal. Body camera footage of the image will be released by next week. Deputy was involved in a similar shooting incident in 2020. The Sheriff's Department identified the deputy involved in the shooting as Ty Shelton. Shelton is the same deputy who shot and killed Michael Thomas, a 61-year-old black man, in June 2020. Shelton had been responding to the domestic violence call at home in Lancaster. Thomas refused to open the door to the deputies when they arrived, according to LA District Attorney's Office. Gage, who had also represented the Thomas family at the time, said that he was unarmed. There was no reason for Thomas to be detained. None of the deputies involved had been issued body-worn cameras. DA's office concluded there was insufficient evidence to prove Shelton acted unlawfully when using deadly force against Thomas. Activists are pointing to Finlayson's death as an example of persistent police brutality against black people. We know black people how hard it is to call 911. Juanette Cullors, director for Cancel the Contract, a local coalition that calls for the end of law enforcement violence and racism. She called thinking that she was going to help. She thought that she was going to get someone to defuse the situation and de-escalate the situation, but that's not what happened. So basically, you can't defend yourself with a gun if you're a black woman. You can't defend yourself with a knife if you're a black woman. You can't defend yourself at all if you're a black woman, because what's the main theory here? The legal theory that we've discussed this podcast time and time again is that being black skin in and of itself is seen by the police as a threat. The fact that you have black skin is in and of itself enough to make somebody want to use deadly force against you. And cops get away with it, as we've seen with this guy. This guy got away with it once, and he may very well get away with it again. We will see if the shooting of Niani Finlayson is going to result in an arrest and conviction of a police officer or sheriff's department deputy who has done wrong again, or not. Again, I'm not holding my breath. I'm going to assume or not until proven otherwise. Did Edwards really pardon a bunch of rightfully convicted murderers? I'm not sure, Easy E. The Rittenhouse was not supposed to have a gun. That's true. It was not legal for Rittenhouse to be carrying the gun that he had. Although, on the Rittenhouse having a gun point, I would say that the law was poorly written. So that even if they convicted him on the gun charge, that conviction may have been overturned, because I'll admit, the law that to me was clear, the clear intent of the law was to be talking about use of a gun while hunting, because it was in the exception to allow under 18 people to have a rifle was in the like the wildlife and fisheries section of the law. So that might make people think, maybe this is only about hunting. But because it wasn't specifically laid out and people are dumb when they write these laws, and people are dumb when they enforce these laws, and attorneys make lots of money dissecting laws, it's very well possible that a very well-paid attorney could have made the argument that this law is too vague and that because of the vagaries of the law, it would then allow Rittenhouse to have the gun, even though clearly he was not supposed to have that gun. Let's see. All right, I just zoomed by a whole bunch of stuff. Let's see. Bill Deacon, did anyone see us Alexei Navalny? I did not see that Alexei Navalny was found in an Arctic Circle penal colony. I did not see that. That's interesting, to say the least. Navalny has already lost weight. Siberia will probably be a death sentence, sadly. Probably. I mean, it usually is, isn't it? We send you to Siberia if we do not like you. Yeah. Biden has signed an executive order creating a database of bad cops, so help is on the way. Of course, people are going to ignore that when they start talking about in 2020 all the good things that Biden has done, and people are going to ignore that because, he isn't handling Israel as well as they might like, or they think that he hasn't handled inflation well, despite the fact that our inflation was much better than any of the other G7 countries. He did much, but we were doing much better than the rest of them coming out of COVID. Even though we're not technically out of COVID, people still have COVID. People are still getting COVID. And in fact, I'm in Louisiana. Louisiana is one of 2 states where they had to make a new color for the map of flu outbreaks because Louisianans are not getting the flu vaccines, because there's been such a negative view on vaccines altogether that not only are they not getting the COVID vaccine, they're not getting the flu vaccine either. And we already had a death from the flu here in Louisiana of a kid because, people down here be dumb. Let's see. Contribute. Dominic, his friend, purchased a gun specifically for someone who was unable to own it and whose charges were dropped. Yeah. Dominic the donkey. Inflation is not even higher, is much higher than under Trump. And Trump, again, was responsible for making the inflation as high as it was because he signed that horrible, crappy oil deal. So, let's see. We're 1 hour in, so let's do a show reset. Liberal Dan Radio, talk from the left, that's right. Mondays and Wednesdays, 8 p.m. Central, here on youtube.com/Liberal Dan Radio, or you can get there just by going to liberaldanradio.com. Support the show. Best thing you can do, like the channel, subscribe to the channel, share videos that you like with your friends, share the channel with your friends, get them to watch, interact with videos, respond to conservatives who come onto the channel trying to make fun of things, respond to, just comment, like comments that are made, just get those algorithms up, and then if you can, you can become a little Liberal Dan Radio patron, patreon.com/liberaldan or patreon.liberaldan.com. Either way gets you there. You can Venmo me, Liberal Dan at Venmo. You can buy me a cider by going to liberaldan.com and clicking the buy me a cider button, or you can go ahead and go to buymeacoffee.com/Liberal Dan Radio. Either way will get you there. Buy me a cider, because I don't like coffees, that's why I say cider. It's another way you can help the show. But and hopefully, we're going to get there. We're with enough people watching every Mondays and Wednesday, with enough people, watching late at night as they're going to sleep and drifting off to the dulcet sounds of Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left, that's right. Hopefully we'll be getting to the point where we'll be at 3,000 for good and not have to worry about the shenanigans of YouTube fluctuating back and forth over that line, because I've only fluctuated once so far, but hopefully once we cross that line again, we'll get there for good and we won't have to worry about it again. So anyway, what else do we want to talk about? Epstein. There is chat there was an order by one of the judges in the Ghislaine Maxwell case that a lot of the documentations is going to be released and made public about, Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein that may very well reveal names of people who have been involved with Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. So, and there's also been discussions on the Hill about whether or not we wanted to release the flight logs of the people who boarded and came aboard and whatever and flew to Epstein's Island on Epstein's jet. Now, if you know my history, I've talked about it before. Anybody who commits sex crimes against anybody, especially kids, F you, bury you under the prison. I don't care. And people who, conservatives who are like, well, what about Bill Clinton went to Epstein Island and diddled whoever and sexually assaulted underage people. I'm like, well, if he did that, then throw him under the prison. I'm not beholden to Bill Clinton. I'm not beholden to anybody. Anybody who did anything wrong in pertaining to Jeffrey Epstein should absolutely be dealt with legally, but dealt with, locked up, incarcerated, etc. I don't care if they have a D behind their name. I don't have if they have an R behind their name. Screw them all. I don't care. Done. But I'm not gonna sit here and go yeehaw and say we need to release the names of everybody who's ever flown to Epstein's Island or whoever's flown on Epstein's jet, or that we need to release anybody who may have ever been tangentially involved with Epstein to begin with. The reason I disagree, Easy, with especially with the flight log thing, is this. Let's say, hypothetically speaking, and this is all because I don't know what all happened on Epstein's Island and if there was ever anything that was non-bad happening over there. What if Epstein had like a charity event one time and invited like Oprah and the Obamas and this and that? Maybe the people at the time didn't know what a scumbag Jeffrey Epstein was. They just went aboard this plane to go to this private island they thought was harmless, and they decided to take part in some, maybe it's a charity event or something. But I don't know what it might have been. I don't know what he might have done. Maybe he did it. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he had one of those types of events where that was totally above board. Do you release those names too? I mean, if you're releasing the logs, you're releasing everybody, regardless of what they did or what they went for. And that's my problem, is that you're basically opening up many people who may have done nothing wrong to simply be like, oh, guilt by association. They went there for this other thing and therefore must be considered a criminal, a rapist, a murderer, not a murderer, but a rapist, a sex trafficker, etc. I mean, who knows? Maybe there was murder going on. I don't know. Again, not that close with good old Jeff Epstein, who didn't commit suicide, by the way. Trump was a frequent flyer with Epstein, demanded they use fake names. Well, obviously, because I'm a smart businessman, I'm not going to use real name on a flight log to an island where I'm going to get to play with little girls. He got convicted in 2007, 2008 on like prostitution. Did he get convicted on sex trafficking though? I don't know. That specific detail. Let's look that up real quick, just to be sure. Epstein convicted. Epstein pled guilty and was convicted in 2008 by Florida State Court of procuring a child for prostitution and of soliciting a prostitute. He was convicted of only these two crimes as part of a controversial plea deal and served almost 13 months in custody, but with extensive work release. So there we go. So yeah, so it was procuring a child for prostitution. But yeah, clearly, yeah. Then if it's before 2000, 2007, 2008, people aren't going to be able to make that distinction. People are just going to say, here you are, this person went to Epstein's Island, and they're not going to determine whether or not this person was legitimately there for a good reason or was there for a bad reason. And I don't necessarily think it's fair, regardless of who the person is. Politically, I don't care if it was Tucker Carlson going. If Tucker Carlson went to Epstein's Island for a non-nefarious reason, I don't think Tucker Carlson should get wrapped up in the idea of being a part of the sex trafficking. Like, I don't know if he did or didn't. I'm just saying, if there was a case where Tucker Carlson, where anybody, Sean Hannity, anybody who I disagree with politically, if they went to Epstein's Island, but not for nefarious purposes, I don't think they should be included. And by just throwing out all the names there, you're basically doing the whole throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And in that case, I don't think it's justice. I think it's just retribution, which is what Donald Trump has threatened. I don't believe in outright retribution against political enemies, but that's what they want to do. Now in Congress, there's discussions of whether or not the flight log should be released, and I think some Republican is trying to claim that that the list is being blocked not because of people in Congress who are on the list, but because people who are on the list are threatening people in Congress and like, hey, we know that you guys in Congress did this. That has nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein, but we still have the receipts on other bad things that you did. So if you release this list that we're on, we're going to release this other stuff that you're on, and it's going to be mutually assured mutually assured destruction. And as such, the people in Congress is like, well, I can't have that happen. And they're like, okay, well, let's not release the list then, because they want to save their own hides. It shouldn't be a political matter. It should be a matter of, right or wrong. And also, one of the things is that if you're in that initial non-flight log list of documents being released, I think you had the opportunity to file a motion with the court to say, hey, don't include my stuff, and here's why. You have to prove to the court as to why your stuff shouldn't be included. But if you make a filing with the court to say this is why my stuff shouldn't be included, doesn't that then put your name on the public record as requesting that your information not be included? So then we all know that you're in that record. So it's like, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. So P-Dubs. Hey, P-Dubs. His island was supposed to have video surveillance cameras everywhere. I'm so sure they're all burned by Ghislaine Maxwell as well. Let's see. MTG got swatted. No idea who did it, but a shock. Yeah, I heard that she got swatted today. And I always disagree with swatting. It's not cool. I don't care who it is. Two wrongs don't make a right. She's a horrible person. No reason to swat her, especially if her family is there. When her family's there and people who are, it's not their fault that they happen to be related to the scumbag, right? So, no, but people are just happy to do horrible things in the name of politics. And that's where we are right now, currently. That's why, one of the reasons I get very upset about certain things. Alaration could be filed under seal. Maybe, but I don't know. But that's the only way. If I was, like, if I'm sitting there on, I guess, I don't know. If I'm sitting on there and I did nothing wrong and I didn't want to have my name out there on the list, I'd absolutely for damn sure would want to make sure that the list of the people who file a petition to the court to not have my stuff released, I would absolutely want to be sure that it's under seal, so as such people can't know that I'm the one asking to keep my stuff out of it, because then if I'm not under seal, then I mean, you'll still know. Even if you don't know everything, you'll still know that I did it. You'll still know that I asked for it, and as such, you're still going to have the whole guilt by association thing. So, hey, Bicycle Mike, what's going on? MTG threatened Pelosi. And again, 2 wrongs don't make a right. Which brings us to this. The thing that I was going to start talking about, earlier today. I wasn't even planning on talking about the whole Israel-Hamas thing today. Even though I wasn't going to talk about it today, I am going to start talking about it now. Because someone who is a friend of mine on Facebook, fellow rideshare driver, that's how we've met. He is, his stepdad, I think, is Palestinian. And so he is very, very vocal in opposition against the actions of the Israeli government. And I've been vocal against the actions of the Israeli government as well. And I'm Jewish, because I don't think that the Palestinian people are being treated right or fair by Netanyahu. And I think that Netanyahu has blood on his hands because the Netanyahu administration knew about the impending attack and chose to do nothing. And I can only assume the reason why is because to them, it's not an ounce of prevention being worth more than a pound of cure. It's that them being able to pound on Gaza is better for them politically than for them to stop it ahead of time. Because if they stop it ahead of time, they don't have any excuse to then go attack Gaza, to go attack, Hamas and be brutal to the people in Gaza and on the West Bank apparently now too. So I'm not going to sit here and justify Netanyahu's bad behavior. I've been vehemently against it. But one of the pictures that was shared was by this, I guess, Twitter account. It's not okay for grown adults to believe Hamas attacked Israel without provocation solely because they are bad guys who are bad. That kind of infantile friction has no place outside of a children's cartoon show. You have access to the whole internet full of information. Use it. Well, I have a problem with this. I have a huge problem with this. And my response to this post was basically, Hamas used sexual assault, rape, they unalive children, they kidnapped the elderly and children, including one elderly person who was a Holocaust survivor. None of that is effing acceptable. There's no reason to share posts like this. This is Hamas apologia. Plain and simple, full stop. I'm not going to stand for apologia of anybody trying to justify the harming of innocents. I won't allow people to do it for Netanyahu. I won't allow people to do it for Hamas. And my response also was speaking in support of Palestinians. Good. Trying to justify Hamas. Evil. Another friend of mine. If I were forced to live under an apartheid regime, I would hope to be a much more terrifying monster than Hamas. How much are people supposed to take? How much abuse and oppression are we to take before nice people are ready to stage a full-on rebellion? I'm asking for myself. And this is the point that I was going to make here, and I didn't want to do a TLDR, so I basically said if you want to listen to my show, you can hear the arguments that I'm going to be making. If you don't want to listen to my show, fine. That's your call. That's your right to do so. But here's my point on that. And I made a little bit of this. It's like if I was a Jewish person living, let's say, in a concentration camp, I would not want people raping innocent people in the name of my freedom. If I was a Jewish person living in concentration camps, I would not want innocent people or elderly people unalived for my freedom. If I told you that the way for, if you told me, the way for me to avoid my own death at the hands of a barbaric enemy was to then commit acts of barbarism in kind to other innocent people, I'd flat out tell you no. I say do not do this in my name, do not do this in support of my freedom, do not specifically target and harm innocents to save my life. I'm not a practicing Jewish person, not at all. But one of the more important lessons that I learned as part of Judaism, as part of my Jewish upbringing, as part of my education as a Jewish person, going to Hebrew school, etc., was when Judaism believes it's okay to take a life and when it's not okay to take a life. or when what can do to save a life. It is okay under Jewish law to take out an aggressor to save your own life or somebody else's life. So when somebody's attacking me, I can take out that person. I can defend myself and use deadly force to prevent myself from being killed from that person. If somebody is attacking you, I am under Jewish law, except it is acceptable for me to take out that person trying to kill you, because I can use deadly force to attack you. What I can't do under Jewish law is if somebody said to me, you need to kill that person or I'm going to kill you. I could not do that under Jewish law. I would not be able to defend myself by taking, as they said, look, you're going to die by being drowned in a, let's say this is a situation. You're in a sealed container that's going to be filling up with water. The only way to protect yourself, to have the water drain from your thing and save your life, is to press this button. If you press this button, somebody else is going to drown. And it's your choice. You save yourself or you kill that other person. Under Jewish law, that's not allowed. That's not okay. It is not okay to take out an innocent person to save your own life. It is only okay. Now, if I had a way to circumvent the system and make the person making the threat suffer the consequences, well, fine. Sure, that would be allowed. But you are not allowed to do bad and evil things to other people to prevent bad or evil things to happen to yourself. Person who I know on Facebook is like, brings up this story of a 13-year-old who was raped in Israeli custody. And I'm like, okay, that's wrong too. Two wrongs don't make a right. Two wrongs. This is not football. We don't have offsetting penalties here. This is not a situation where like somebody does something wrong, so somebody else does something wrong, and they offset, repeat the down. This is a circumstance where people are doing bad things, and that's not a justification to do bad things to other people. And when somebody says, I would hope that I would be more of a monster than Hamas was, how can you be more of a monster than raping innocent people, than killing children, kidnapping Holocaust survivors, elderly people? Like, what more would you want them to do? I'm not going to sit by idly and defend anybody, or just accept anybody who's just going to defend Hamas. I'm also not going to sit back and wait around as people defend Netanyahu either, because clearly Netanyahu's done wrong. Clearly Israel's done wrong. And when they do wrong, they should be punished or criticized. The people that do the wrong should be punished, and Israel itself should be criticized. And there are people inside Israel that are criticizing their own government because of that. But my point is that if you're only going to look at the wrongs that Israel has done from the creation of Israel on. Now, I've already had a video on here where I talk about how blaming Israel for the creation of Israel is in and of itself anti-Semitic. Go watch that video if you haven't seen it yet. But if you're only going to look at what's happened to the Palestinian people and only blame Israel and not look at the harm that has been done by everybody else in the scenario, then that's basically anti-Semitism too, because you're blaming the country led by Jews, mostly, because Jewish people are most of the people in government, and you're not blaming anybody else. You're not blaming the other Arab states. You're not blaming the American Christians who rattle the cages and who poke the bear and who shake up the wasp's nest, etc. to try and get the Jews and the Palestinians fighting so you can ignore the main people doing the wrong things. I'm not going to sit here and just allow people to post things, because that leads to anti-Semitism. If you just attack Israel, that's going to lead to anti-Semitism. It's going to make my life less safe. It's going to make the lives of my friends and family who are Jewish less safe. And so, no, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to be critical of anybody who's doing that. And if you don't like it, F off. Liberal Dan Radio presents Fat Man Rants. Anyway. Jeff Curry, so now the right is on the side of the Jews because they hate Arabs more. Yes. Abso-freaking-lutely, Jeff. That's not even now. That's been the case for years or decades even. I've said this for a long time, that the only reason that the conservative right-winged Christians, easy for me to say, support Israel at all has nothing to do with them supporting Jews. It has everything to do with A, the fact that in order for their prophecy to come true, they need a bunch of Jews there for them to die first, and with friends like that. But B, yes, they hate Arab people more, they hate Muslims more, they hate Palestinians more, so they're more than happy to feign support for Jews if it means that it's going to get the Jews, like Netanyahu, to start pounding on Gaza and taking out more Palestinians, because they love to see that. And people are going to be like, and people who don't want to vote, or who are, I'm not voting for Joe Biden because I don't want him doing all this stuff in my name. Like Donald Trump's not going to do it in your name. Like Donald Trump's not going to sit here and applaud like a gleeful idiot while Netanyahu raises the hell out of Gaza. Donald Trump would take the leash off of Netanyahu, for lack of a better term, and be like, go ahead, you can do whatever you want. You can have whatever you like. It's so frustrating. Because Jewish people don't get listened to. Jewish people just don't get listened to when it comes to matters of our own oppression. We just have to sit back and take it. We just have to sit back here and take the oppression. While people who are on the left are being apologists for Hamas, who would who have thrown LGBTQ folks off of roofs. They're applauding Hamas. They want people to be worse than Hamas. I'm shocked that the person said that I would hope that it would be more of a monster than Hamas. How much more of a monster would you want it to be? They say, I'm not defending rape, but what you said you would be more, you would hope that you would be more than a monster. How do you become more than a monster than doing what Hamas already did? It's ridiculous. It's absolutely insane. Jeff Curry, I was saying happy ass holidays, get lots of smiles, nice. Criminal party doesn't care about guilt by association. We get evidence by their voters and never hold them accountable. It doesn't directly affect them. That's why the road rage is important. Exactly. The trolley dilemma. Well, trolley dilemma would be take Hamas and Netanyahu and put them both on the track. Make the track loop so you get Netanyahu and and Hamas. Let's see. P-dubs, how about the blame lies between Netanyahu and Hamas? I mean, yeah. I've said that for a while now. Hamas gets blamed, Netanyahu gets blamed, but other people get blamed too. But they only want to blame Israel. And if you're only blaming Israel, I'm not going to necessarily say that you yourself are an anti-Semite, but if you're only blaming Israel, you're falling for the tricks of the anti-Semites. You're enabling the anti-Semites to continue on what they're doing. And you're also ignoring reality. You're ignoring, as this post that I shared earlier, the entirety of the internet is at your fingertips. Educate yourself. Look at my podcast. I've done my research. I've shown my work. I've explained why the maps that are used are wrong. I've explained why Jews in the Middle East have been screwed over, how Jews had no power. Anybody who was a Zionist in the 40s had no power to form any state. Jews had no power to do anything in the 40s. Jews were a battered down, beaten people, decimated by the Holocaust. No country wanted Jews in their country. Yet you're going to say, oh, it's the Jews' fault. It's Israel's fault that Israel was created. It's Zionism's fault. No. It's the world anti-Semite, global anti-Semitism that is responsible for the creation of Israel. Because they didn't want the Jews anywhere else. They didn't want the Jews in their area. They didn't want the Jews in their country. They wanted the Jews to all go to that one little area. Boom, there you go. Let the Palestinian people deal with them. Let it be their problem, not our problem. Because the Palestinian people can't stand up to us, so we're gonna screw them over while screwing the Jews over too. Both sets of people were screwed over, and as, again, tale as old as time, as the Palestinians and Jewish people get screwed over, the people in charge manage to convince each of them that it's the other group's fault and have them fight it out between each other. Instead of them looking up and being like, oh, it's their fault. It's those people's fault who created this situation. We should work together and share the land. But no, that's asking too much, apparently. These people want to be worse than Hamas. How do you get worse than Hamas? Become literal Nazis? Pshaw. P-dubs, what should you get for Christmas? All I want for Christmas is you. Sorry. Yeah, I'm so sad for all the victims in the Holy War. It's terrible. It's deplorable. All of these people in this conflict are dying for no good reason. I don't know if there's a good... I mean, sure, maybe there's a good reason for death, i.e. if you're shooting somebody coming into your home, as we discussed earlier. Maybe that's a good reason to take a life, just to defend your own life. But, like, there was another discussion on another thread where, like, same person was sharing some post from the same group that it's talking about how, like, somebody who was part of the Gazan Health Ministry, the house was targeted because he was there. I'm like, when you say Gazan Health Ministry, you should just say Hamas, because that's Hamas. Hamas runs the Gazan Health Ministry. So maybe, just maybe, if you're a member of Hamas and you don't want your family members being attacked or being put in harm's way, maybe don't put yourself in the same house as they are. Because members of Hamas, regardless of the horrible decisions that Netanyahu's made, the deplorable decisions that Netanyahu's made, regardless of everything that Netanyahu has done that I disagreed with, if you're a member of Hamas, you're a legitimate target. If you put yourself in a house with your family, that doesn't make you less of a legitimate target. That's you putting your own family at risk. I'll repeat that again. If you are a member of Hamas and you sit yourself down by your family in the same house as they are, you are putting your family at risk. Because regardless, again, of the bad actions of Netanyahu, the bad actions of Likud, the bad actions of this Netanyahu-ran Israeli government when it comes to pushing this war and doing all of the collective punishment that they've been doing, and many of the actions that should be considered illegal under international law, despite all of that, Hamas are terrorists, and if you're a member of Hamas, especially after 10/7, you are a valid military target. So if you put yourself in a house with the rest of your family and Israel attacks your house, that's your fault. That's not Israel's fault. Now, if Israel drops like cluster bombs and dumb bombs and other things, and they attack the house and like destroy like whole blocks of a city when they could have done a more precision strike, that's Israel's fault. And Israel's to blame. And Israel has caused the death of needless people. Now, I don't know if I believe all of the numbers coming out of the Hamas health ministry, I'm sorry, the Gazan health ministry, because that's Hamas, and Hamas has a reason to lie. So I don't know how much I trust their numbers, but I'm going to flat out say, if you look at the actual footage of what Israel has done, it is not reasonable for what they've done. It's not a reasonable response for what was done. There's plenty of other ways that Israel could have responded to this without all of the needless death that has taken place. But if you're a member of Hamas, you're still a valid target. If you're a member of Hamas and you put yourself next to innocent people, and those innocent people get harmed or killed because you decided to be a member of Hamas, their deaths are on your hands. That's what people mean by human shields. And the whiny left doesn't want to say that Hamas uses human shields. Hamas uses their own family as human shields. They don't care about their own families. They don't care about anybody. That's why they're in Hamas. But yet you have people sharing these posts like this to try and say it's infantile or juvenile to put blame on Hamas. Screw that. Screw that. And if you're going to post anything like that, I have to say screw you as well. Because I can't handle it. I can't take it. Because by trying to be a Hamas apologist, you are being an apologist for a group that wants to kill all Jews. If you want to support a group that wants to kill all Jews, and you want to support a group that wants to kill me, guess what? You have no place in my life if you support that. Simple as that. And people who want to claim that they support the Palestinians, how can you support the Palestinians while supporting Hamas? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And people like this will ignore everything else that I say about the fact that I have constantly talked badly about Netanyahu. I've been against Netanyahu for ages now. Long before 10/7, I've been critical of Netanyahu. Haven't liked his administration, haven't liked him as a prime minister. I refuse to call him Bibi. That's stupid. That's childish. Calling him Bibi is childish. It's ridiculous. But people will ignore all that. If I dare suggest that anybody's being ridiculous because they're being an apologist for Hamas, is like, oh no, I wish I would be a bigger monster than Hamas. Do you? I wish you would rethink what you say. Because Hamas wants me dead. And if you want to be a bigger monster than Hamas, what does that say about you? They don't care that I'm not practicing. Anti-Semites hate Jews regardless of whether or not they practice. Anti-Semites hate Jews because they feel Jews taint the blood. Much like Donald Trump says that the immigrants taint our blood too. Because that's the terms of bigotry and xenophobia. That's what they do. And words like these will be used to continually justify the oppression and the murder and the death of more Jewish people in this planet until there are none of us left. So yeah, I'm going to be fucking loud as I can. And I'm going to raise a stink. And if you don't like it, on your Facebook page, on your YouTube channel, you know exactly what you can do. Because I'm tired of it. I'm tired of having to justify my existence while trying to justify the fact that Palestinians have the right to exist. I could understand if I was a guy trying to justify the carpet bombing of Gaza, if I'm saying that everything Israel is doing is justified because they were attacked on 10/7, I could understand if I was just being an Israeli apologist on all this. I would understand that totally. Well, maybe I wouldn't if I was that type of person, but I'm not that type of person. I'm willing to be more nuanced. I am more nuanced. Things aren't as black and white as people wanted to be, but I guess when it comes to listening to Jewish people and their oppression, people don't care. And that's why I have to stand up. And that's why I'll continue to do things like wear my Hanukkah shirt, you know, out in public, because I was concerned when I went away to Florida last week or whatever. I was sitting there like, do I wear my Hanukkah shirt? Because maybe it might put me at risk, put me at threat. And I'm like, you know what? If I don't do it, the anti-Semites win. So I need to stand up, and I need to be as pro-Jew as I can be, whilst also being pro-Palestinian, pro-peace, etc. But there will still be people who will watch this who won't care, who will just try and say that you're just a Zionist. No. I'm a person who wants peace. I'm a person who wants peaceful people to be able to live together in harmony. I want people to share the land. I want people to not want to kill each other over stupid pieces of land. And I don't want people to support terrorist organizations like Hamas, but apparently that's too big of an ask for me, so whatever. Let's see, Big Hook, they are addicted to war. Netanyahu's addicted to power and corruption, and even more sinister sickness of Jewish supremacy from his right-wing fanatical coalition. Yeah, but I mean, Netanyahu is not just addicted to power. He needs the power. If he loses the power, he's screwed legally because of the legal trouble that he's in. That's why he's trying to reshape the Israeli Supreme Court. That's why he's trying to change the laws. That's why he's doing a lot of the things that he's doing, simply because of the fact that he needs to retain power. That's part of the reasons why I'm convinced. That's part of the reason why I predicted before it was known that he knew, that they knew. I predicted that they would know and choose to not act to it, because if they acted on it ahead of time and stopped it from happening, he wouldn't be able to use this as a cudgel to force his political will on others. Because I know, I've followed Netanyahu, I've studied what he does. I know what he do. I know how he be. I know he's a scumbag. And scumbags are going to do scumbag things. But apparently, it's not good enough for some people. It's not good enough for some people. Somebody else responded to the same thread. I definitely haven't read enough about it, but I was kind of confusing why they attacked a music concert instead of a military, economic, or political target. Kind of made it feel illegitimate. Ask me the same thing. I can ask the same thing, but, people are just being shitty. And I don't take the words that I say lightly. I've been very, very hesitant to respond on his post because I know that he has family members out there who are being put at risk. I know that this person is very passionate about his support of his family, about the support of the people who are being put at risk because of Netanyahu's bad actions. So I only respond when I feel it's absolutely necessary to do so, and it was absolutely necessary for me to do so. But what do I do? Do I just block them and move on? Because some people would just say block them and move on, and it seems like a reasonable thing to do for most people. But if you block people and move on, A, you don't see what they're sharing, and B, you don't see what they're sharing, and B, guess what? Then they win. Then the anti-Semites win. When Jewish people just give up and say, you know what, I'm not going to fight this fight. I don't feel like fighting this fight anymore. That's how bigots win. Even when you're not fighting bigots in and of themselves. So, I'm sorry, Steve, if I missed you. Good night, Steve. Let's see, roll back. I think I missed something. Nice. P-Dub's got an Ibanez hollow body guitar from her brother. That's very cool. Big hook. Until a real leader can step forward for the Palestinians who is generally interested in a peaceful resolution, this 40-year cycle just continues endlessly. I mean, same true on the Israeli side as well, I would say. But I think what needs to happen is the Arab nations, as I said before, need to get together and need to squash Hamas, because Israel can't do it. Israel can't do it without being harmed politically. So somebody else needs to do it, and it probably has to be other Arab nations doing it. Otherwise, it's going to be seen as anti-Palestinian, anti-Islamic, Islamophobic, etc. So only the Arab nations can clean that house and have it be seen as legitimate. Is that going to happen? Probably not, because many Arab nations still don't support the idea that Israel should be a state, even in a two-state solution idea. Let's see. Tomorrow, having a couple of his friends over for second Christmas. The next day is Mom's birthday, another celebration. That's awesome. Good to hear. It's always nice to have more celebrations. I hate that we can't speak up for fear of being a Hamas lover or an anti-Semite. We can't win. Well, that's the thing. It's like, you can. You can. It's just how you do it. But unfortunately, even when you do it, people ignore you. That's the thing, is that people ignore half of what you say because they want to hear what they want to hear. And that's the problem. But, like, one of the things I've said earlier on was that it is absolutely possible to be critical of Israel without being an anti-Semite. The problem is that a lot of people aren't capable of it. A lot of people can't do it successfully because they'll start criticizing Israel and do it in a way that sounds very anti-Semitic, and it makes Jews be like, makes us very uncomfortable. So, see, John McClure, a side note, from an environmental perspective, how much is population growth exceeding the carrying capacity of Israel for the problem in both regions, using the reproductive rate as a weapon? Haven't even thought about that. Although Israel has done a lot of research into making a lot of the uninhabitable or unusable lands more usable, so there's that. Kimchi, nose running, eyes watering, forehead sweating. It's good. What? For, ghost pepper extract? Nice. I try and preach kimchi, but unfortunately it doesn't fall on enough ears. Let's see. Let's just refresh this page again. No, we're still at 9 hours. 9 public watch hours shy of the 3,000 limit, even though, according to analytics, if you go to, let's see, overview of analytics, and I click the analytics thing and go to watch hours for 365 days, I'm at 3,071.8 hours, which means I'm 71 hours over. So there's a difference of 80 hours. There's 80 hours difference between what analytics says I have and what the studio page that allows me to click the button says I have. So that's why I'm frustrated about the whole thing. Anyway. So my ex-father-in-law sent some deer sausage for me. That was cool. I love some deer sausages. Big hug. None of the Arab nations want to intervene because they see this as a mess of their own making and they have had bad actions taken against their own governments. That's true too. I mean, yeah, because here's the thing: like if the governments do something that is seen by a bunch of other extremists as being anti-Islamic or if they're being seen as supporting Israel by other people just by simply clearing out Hamas to the benefit of the Palestinians, guess what? They're probably going to have another revolution and another government toppled and more extremist people taken in. So yeah, it's you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. But welcome to Judaism. That's life as a Jewish person. You're always damned if you do, damned if you don't. Wow, we're only an hour and 50 minutes in. Do we? I don't know. I mean, I should do full-on 3-hour shows every day I air, just simply to get to the point where we're over 3,000 views. But then again, I wasn't always doing 3-hour shows back last year either. So there's that. And we're going to do maybe a longer show on Wednesday, because Wednesday's show is going to be kind of like a year in review. It's not going to be like a best of show, but we are going to kind of go over everything that happened over the year, plus maybe some new things as well. So Wednesday's show will definitely be a longer show. Maybe Wednesday's show I'll be able to take phone call as well if Blog Talk Radio fixes their stuff. But it's very well possible that I may end the show slightly early today, simply because of the fact that Happy Holidays, Bicycle Mike, because the tryptophan from the turkey I think maybe made me a little tired. I mean, we only ate it at 1, but yeah, we'll see. I do have work tomorrow as well. And before I move on, I guess if you were gonna join me tomorrow night on twitch.tv/nerdydan.com, I just want to remind you that I'm probably going to start tomorrow nights later, simply because thank you for reminding me of that, P-dubs. Now I have not, and I should. We'll talk about that in a second. Hold on. Thank you for bringing that up, because I did want to talk about that too. But tomorrow, I will probably, if you do join me on Twitch, I'll probably be on Twitch late. So I have stuff to do on Twitch, gaming-wise, that I need to stream and capture and upload to YouTube. But they have this thing in New Orleans called Celebration in the Oaks. And a whole big rigmarole took place. It's a whole war on Christmas thing, because it used to be Christmas in the Oaks, but now it's Celebration in the Oaks. And when they changed it from Christmas in the Oaks to Celebration in the Oaks, all of the people are like, why are they changing the name? Why? Even though there is a Hanukkah display in it. So it's more than just Christmas. And, share the season. But people don't like to share land. People don't like to share holidays or seasons or whatever. So I will probably be doing that, because there's this book called The Cajun Night Before Christmas, which is another play off of The Night Before Christmas, kind of like my Night Before Christmas that I air on the podcast every holiday season. But this is just done in like a Creole Cajun type voice. It's written in like a Cajun type of voice, and the company that Cassie works for, or worked for before they got bought out by the company that Cassie currently works for, they published that book, The Cajun Night Before Christmas. And it's part of what they show in the in the walking tour and in the driving tour, etc. So it's one of the things you can get to see when you're walking around New Orleans City Park. And because she works for the publisher, we get a free pass and we get to go in and participate in this thing, you know, despite the fact that and we get to do that for free, despite everyone else having to pay like 30 frickin' bucks to do it. It's absurd how much they charge for this thing now. But they also charge for Jazz Fest a hell of a lot too, and much more than it used to. So I'll be doing that tomorrow, and then probably when I come back from that, I will do a Twitch live stream, at least for a little bit, so I can record some of the stuff I usually like to record and upload to YouTube afterwards. And then, of course, we'll have the regular show Wednesday. Normal time, same bad channel. But yeah, let's discuss the Ronna McDaniel thing. Trump, Ronna. I'm of the opinion that it's more than possible. It's maybe even probable that maybe they already have the feds already have that tape, and maybe it's already being used as part of his prosecution, and it's just being released, I guess, to the media now. I don't know. So, but I don't think it says it's newly unearthed, but I don't necessarily know if it's newly unearthed to the Justice Department. Maybe it is. I don't know. Kimchi, did you discuss the Texas law allowing police to arrest anyone suspected of being an illegal immigrant? We did cover that the last show. Yeah, we covered that on, I think on the last show or the show before. We did talk about that a good bit. I ranted about that a good bit because of the fact that, you know, Texans don't understand, you know, the Constitution, and, you know, how they hate the Constitution, and they believe it says one thing when it doesn't. They believe that they have the rights to do certain actions under the Constitution when they don't. Let's see. Let's go to your videos. I think I could share the link to that real quick before we, because I think I separated that and uploaded that as a separate video on top of that. Yeah, I think that's fine, Kimchi. You don't have to hear everything that I do. Let's see. Texas border laws are unconstitutional, but disprove the GOP argument. There's a shorter video on it, but I think there's the longer episode from the live from the 21st has more of a rant on it. So but yeah, basically these new laws give, let's see, let's just go to videos and copy link address. Part of it is here, but the rest of it is whatever. I am shook a little bit, though, that Ronna McDaniel was in on that call, and that Ronna McDaniel gets such crap being the head of the GOP, despite the fact that she's like put her head on the chopping block for Trump. I mean, this should save face with her and the MAGA supporters at this, because she basically was with Trump pressuring county officials to try and get them to not certify the election and offering legal support for them to violate the law. Fortunately, they chose to not follow through and chose to go ahead and certify. But yeah, holy crap. The fact that the Trump and Ronna McDaniel offering a thing of value to a public official to violate their oath of office equals a crime. And that should be enough to get people to, you know, maybe not support Herr Donald, but they don't care. His supporters don't care. Also shows the depths with Trump personally participated in fraudulently pimping the big lie. McDaniel is equally exposed. Clearly evidence going to the core of conspiracies charged by the special prosecutor. He added that Smith might already have so much evidence that he doesn't need the Michigan call to bolster his case. Often, he pointed out, the narrative is pared down to the most persuasive evidence desired by the prosecutor. Not all evidence is utilized, although I can't imagine that this would be an example of something that's not the most persuasive. This should be damn persuasive, although we haven't really heard the entirety of the call, so maybe the call in and of itself is not as damning as it might be, but you know, it is what it is. Yes, Kimchi, us fellow Taurians have to unite. Taurians don't put up with crap. A bribe is a bribe. Alright, you're May 18th, I'm May 20th. There you go, I'm on the cusp. But I'm still a Taurus, so I'm still stubborn, bullheaded, passionate, etc. And we're all good lovers, apparently. Maybe a topic for Liberal Dan After Dark, right? Anywho. But yeah, I think we're going to go ahead and we covered that one a little bit. Maybe we'll cover it a little more, especially if the tape ever becomes public. We'll definitely cover it more just to see it. But I think as of right now, you know, if what we hear about the tape is true, then it should put Trump at risk and it should put Ronna McDaniel at risk. But there's so much crap going on with the legal fights and Trump trying to delay in order to make sure that he can, you know, make the election and try and win the election so that he's president before any decisions are made. So then he creates a constitutional crisis that, you know, the most important thing is getting these cases over with and done. But anyway, let's just go ahead and call an end to this episode of Liberal Dan Radio, Talk from the Left. That's right. If you feel up to it, go interact with some other videos, watch another show, or put it on while you're going to sleep. Listen to the dulcet sounds of Liberal Dan Radio to get you to sleep and get those numbers up, because we're almost there. Appreciate y'all again. We'll be here Wednesday, 8 p.m. Central, same time, for the year in review, etc. And then Monday, of course, will be the New Year's show. I'll be doing that as well. Look forward to that as well. And hopefully, you know, if there's anything else big that comes up, just watch the channel, because who knows, maybe I'll come on and do another surprise show just to get us to where we need to be. But P-Dubs, thank you for joining. Appreciate everybody for coming on for it. Since I probably won't speak to y'all before, have a very safe New Year. Don't do anything dumb. Don't get your hands blown up. Don't go out drinking and driving. Get a designated driver. Take an Uber or a Lyft or what have you. Be safe, be secure, have a happy and healthy New Year's Eve. Enjoy ringing in the new year. Hope you get a good smooch from somebody if that's what you want. And anyway, until Wednesday, this is... Actually, no, I guess I will be on Wednesday, so I guess I don't have to wish New Year's till now. I guess I can do all that wishing on Wednesday. It's getting late and I'm getting tired, so I'll just cut out now. Clearly, it's getting too late for me. But anyway, if you're not here on Wednesday, all those wishes apply. But otherwise, I'll see everybody on Wednesday, 8 p.m. Central, unless you're going to be on the Nerdy Dance stream tomorrow, which again will be starting later than normal because I'm going to the Celebration and Yokes thing. Till then, thank you very much. Have a good night.